What am I to do?
Welcome to He Said, She Said Razor Branding Podcast with Michael Russo and Jaci Russo. To learn more about how to improve your brand, visit brandRUSSO.com.
Michael, Jason is our guest today, and he is a fascinating guy, I think, with a great story. You know, he came up 25 years in the nutritional supplement space and is now working for Bedrock Granite, which has both B2C and B2B endeavors. And so this whole conversation to me was fascinating because so many companies are like that. They've got two arms or three arms that they've got to balance. And I think he does an admirable job of pushing the boundaries of traditional and digital, of B2B and B2C, of engaging the homeowners and the custom home builders. And really, I mean, you hear him talk, they're growing. So he's doing something right.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had the pleasure of working with some great marketing directors over the years, and he sounds like he's one of them. The way he communicates, the way he has understanding of the brand, how he tries to manage it, because at the end of the day, they're the true brand managers. When we work with companies, we can always bring them messaging and ideas and concepts and things to do, but they have to be open and receptive to them, and they have to understand their brand more than anybody, so they can help guide that process. And I think, like you said, he does it very well.
Right. No, absolutely. So I hope that y'all enjoy this conversation, listening to it as much as we did making it, because I think Jason's got it going on.
What am I to do when the day is through?
Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Well, we are so glad you're here, and there are so many things I want to talk about. And I guess I kind of want to start with the beginning to now. So, you know, you spent 25 years in nutritional supplements before moving into construction and home remodeling. What drove that transition, and how did your background shape the way you approach branding today?
Yeah, well, as part of that 25 years in supplements, I was fortunate enough to work with two companies that were category creators, so products that had never been brought to market before. And the one company, the product was an obscure fruit from French Polynesia that tasted disgusting, and we grew that to $500 million in 10 years. So that was an incredibly wild ride.
Jason, was that part of your pitch? This tastes really gross. Buy it now.
Yeah, it's kind of like fisherman's friend throat lozenges. You know, it's so disgusting you'll forget that your throat hurts. But as part of bringing a product to market that has never been brought to market before, is we focused a lot on branding, as you can imagine, right? And sure enough, once we brought it to market, we had a lot of Me Too products come along. But we as that competition came into play, we decided, we really needed to differentiate ourselves. At first, we were the only one selling it. So anyway, we spent a lot of time trying to build a premium brand because it was not cheap. So not only had you never heard of it, not only was it disgusting to taste, and it looked like a hand grenade, looked like a green hand grenade, like it had all these eyes on it. It's called noni juice. And anyway, despite all of that, we were selling it at like $40 a bottle. So anyway,
So no one's ever heard of it. It tastes horrible and it's really expensive.
Yes, and yet it grows like a weed on the side of the road in Tahiti. But it was, I mean, that was my first foray into marketing, and so
oh my gosh.
I was able to really parlay a lot of that knowledge about how to build brands and how to differentiate yourself, and then move it to the next company, which also had a product that had never been brought to market before. But also very heavily focused on branding, not quite as marketing driven as we were, probably a little bit more operations driven, this company, which is great because it gave me a lot of like measurables and analytics, and I got out of the clouds a little bit in my marketing ivory tower and had to like sing for my supper, right? Whereas the other company was like, yeah, let's just spend a ton of money. So anyway, that taught me a lot about branding, and I've been able to actually, even though the industry is radically different, construction, right? Like I tell people I sell rocks. So what we do here at Bedrock Quartz is we are a stone fabricator, and so we do marble quartz, granite quartzite, kitchens and bathrooms, and we're the largest fabricator in the state of Utah. So we do about 35 kitchens a day. But anyway, how did I end up in this space? I don't know. I got really tired of certain things in the supplement space. I'll just say leadership was challenging. And I was introduced to these guys here, and they were just so solid, so down to earth, family owned business, just no nonsense. I'm like, man, that is exactly what the doctor ordered. And yet I found that I could be extremely passionate about this particular product. Stone, right? It's like putting artwork in people's homes.
That is amazing. And having just redone a kitchen a couple of years ago with a gorgeous island that seats 12.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's fine. So I appreciate, I mean, it's the centerpiece of our whole house. You walk in the front door, we took out 5 interior walls, and now the entire center of our downstairs is that island. So I know how important that stone is. And then we did like a leather on it, a leathering. So it's
Mhm.
really nice and fun to the touch. It's not glossy. So yeah, I'm right there with you on that important part. So as a guy who's made the transition from the B2C world to the B2B world, which has a little toe in the B2C land, I mean, you said, throw in money. So that's a big thing. Which one do you find easier, harder? Do you feel like there's a big difference? Is it exercising a different muscle?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I would consider myself more of a B2C type marketer because I've spent a lot of time in retail. However, as I go back to my time in the supplement space, these were um, direct sales companies, right? So you have a core of distributors who are just everyday people trying to sell your product. And so I always consider that to be B2C, excuse me, B2B,
Right.
because these were people trying to run a home-based business, right? They had an inventory, they had a story, they had their testimonial, all this good stuff. And so really I started to look at my job as sales enablement, right? Which certainly you need that as a B2B marketer.
Right.
So so yeah, as I started like revisiting my resume, I'm like, yeah, I've actually done this for a very long time. So yeah, I think they're both very different. I'm probably more comfortable in the B2C space. Um, but I'm doing B2B marketing here at Bedrock Quartz. We have a custom building team that works with lots of specialty builders, multi-million dollar homes, and then we have a, a production builder side as well. So yeah, I do support those teams and try to get them as excited about our story as the average customer.
Right.
How big is your footprint? Do y'all just sell with the entire state region? Do you go beyond those that area?
Yeah, primarily here in Utah. We may do some things in Wyoming, or we can't do Vegas because of certain restrictions, and it's just a long way to go because our fabrication facility is just west of Salt Lake City. But yeah, we did actually do. If you guys are big golfers, you strike me as big golfers. We just did a lot of the surfaces at Black Rock, or excuse me, Black Desert Resort in St. George, Utah, and they just did the PGA tour. So that was a nice showpiece for us.
Nice, nice. Where do
Yeah,
you
we
where do
were.
you get where do you source your all your materials from? Is it from in Utah and quarries there?
Oh, no, no. It's funny. There are actually granite quarries, and there's a history of granite and old Utah and that sort of thing. But no, we source from all over the world. Fortunately, we don't exclusively source out of China. That would probably hurt a little bit right now. But we do get stuff out of China, Italy, a lot of quarries in Italy, Brazil, India. So it's fairly diverse, which is great. A lot of the man-made stuff quartz does come out of China, but we have a pretty diversified palette to pull from. So we're not really feeling a huge pinch vis-a-vis tariffs right now.
Right. What are some of your biggest challenges when you look at your whole marketing? I feel like everybody's under budgeted, under resourced, so I expect that. But what are some of the other challenges that you're faced with?
Yeah, I don't know that we're super exclusive as a company. I think when I got here and first started working here, I saw a company that had a really great story, but they were just not really telling it. The classic example in my interview, actually, I said, "Hey, listen, I looked at your site and I looked at all your competitors, and I saw really beautiful kitchens, but there were no people inside of them enjoying them." And so that became a priority to sort of say, like, and the funny thing is that one of our sort of called, like, our motto really is, we fulfill dreams by beautifying kitchens and enriching the lives of people that we come in contact with. And I'm like, okay, you're talking about dreams. I'm not seeing any dreams. I'm seeing some
Right.
very sterile, empty kitchens. And so that's been a huge focus and has paid dividends by not just aligning the marketing message with the company's, reason for being, but actually being able to, like what you were talking about. I geek out about the kitchen, right? Because all those cool moments happen in the kitchen.
Yes.
The coloring, the spilled orange juice, I'm going to prom, and the dinners and all those things. It's like the nucleus of the home, and there's
Yep.
so much romance that goes into uh, that area. So many cool things that happen that drive the family. So yeah, we just did a commercial that really showed that history around a certain space within the kitchen. And so yeah, that's been really great. But yeah, challenging. I think when I first got here, we were doing some marketing. We were in some channels that I hadn't really worked a lot in previously, like a lot of like Google ad spend, because in the supplement space, what I was doing was like we didn't pay for ads. The
Right.
distributors were our advertisers. But it was really just trying to like make sure there wasn't any waste. I was going to say waste, fraud, and abuse, but I'm not going to say that.
Right.
Um, but yeah, just making sure that we were getting the best bang for our dollars, right? So revisiting the way we were doing things, asking challenging questions, and really asking for a lot of like reporting on what was happening. Because the classic question I think for any CEO is going to be like, "Hey, is my marketing working?" And we as marketers may think so because we're just talking and we're putting our message out there, but like, is it really working? Can you measure it? Can you like duplicate it? Um, so yeah, that I felt like the first year I was like trying to like go and prove all over again why we were doing certain things or why we needed to stop doing other things.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's harder and harder these days too, because people look for that. I need to see the ROI. I need to see exactly, did this click lead to a sale? And then you run into the idea that, the consumer these days are doing a lot of their own research. They're going online, they're doing their homework. And if you don't have a presence out there and you don't have some brand building going on in the background, then, it may hurt you in the long run. I looked around and the competitor had a better website, they had better visuals, they had better messaging. And so I felt more comfortable with them from that sale. Again, I think having all this data is really good today, but it's also harmful because people get rid of the insight that sometimes you need to just have that out there to build that comfort level and that education resource,
Yeah, no, for sure. And to that end, we actually this year have done several focus groups with potential customers, past customers. Um, We've done some we've done some brand studies, just brand awareness studies. So again, the data is great, but the anecdotal is super helpful as well. So yeah, those things have been insightful.
What did you learn? I mean, did you find, and I don't want to divulge any trade secrets, but did you find that y'all had certain perceptions inside the house that were not the same perceptions by the people outside the house?
Oh, for sure. I think any company and certainly us as marketers, we feel like everybody's hanging in on our every word, and they just, they just eat up everything that we put out there. So of course they know who we are and how wonderful we are and what a great deal we have and how handsome our marketing directors are. But basically, we found that even though we were spending a lot of money and we were spending money on conversion tactics, but also awareness,
Mhm.
uh, we were not as well known as we thought we were, because we're like, well, we're the biggest fabricator in the state. It's like, okay, that's great, but like, how often do I order a kitchen, right? It's not
Right.
like a thing that I buy every week, and so you're always top of mind. It's like you hope they remember 5 years from now when they decide to do their kitchen,
Right.
that we stood out. So yeah, that's
How do you balance? So, because you serve retail customers and custom home builders, how do you balance those different audiences? Like, is it 60/40? Is it 50/50? Is it 20/80?
no, honestly, I think I think I spend probably 80% of my time on the retail channels. So we have 9 different showrooms throughout the state. And so, I our whole messaging is like, come and see us, right? Come
Right.
visit us at a showroom. You may get a sense of what this stone and the veining and the color and the movement, you may have a sense of what that looks like online, but to see it in real life and to see it refract the light and, just the, like you were talking about, a leathered surface, right? Which is popular, right? Leather, it's usually polished, but, just to feel it and to see it, especially in large stone format, which is something we focus on. We
Right.
don't ask you to visualize a little swatch like this. We actually have like 2 by 4 foot slabs that you can come and get a better sense of. So,
Right. I love that. We have a friend who has a gorgeous quartz island and they have the underlight. And so the whole thing glows. That is fine.
yeah, it's incredible too. You think of something as basic as stone, but they're doing like heat induction where you can actually just cook on the surface, or you can charge your smartphone or what have you, and then all the illumination stuff that happens. We tend to see that a lot with like bars and mini bars and kitchenettes and things like that. But yeah, it's pretty remarkable to see how that's evolved.
Yeah, that's kind of badass. Um, I imagine though, and I hear you loud and clear that you're focused on the retailer, and that makes sense because, I would think though that your custom home builders and your designers and your architects are driving, especially those bigger projects. They're kind of driving the decision making. So it's almost got to be that balance. I've got some ideas for you. I'm going to send you later.
Right.
But it goes back to the same thing when you've got a small $5,000 kitchen and a big $100,000 retail installation. Do you find that's the same marketing that yields both results? Or are you having to segment your plan or have different chapters in your plan for each one?
Yeah, we definitely segment. Like I just finished basically a brochure for our custom team. And, it focuses a lot on accuracy, scheduling, on time, some of these things that it's not that a retail customer doesn't want those things, right? But just the message is a little bit different. Um, it's really kind of nuanced because again, I sit there and I think, well, we've been in business for 40 years, right? So if I'm a builder, I'm going to want to partner with someone who's been around for a long time. But at the same time, if I've got a $5,000 kitchen, $5,000, that's a lot of cheese. So, I want to make sure that I am getting the best for
Right.
that, little kitchen upgrade, even if it is just a small project like that.
Right.
So,
Right. No, I wish ours had only cost $5,000. That would have been awesome. It did not. It very
But,
much.
y-
The whole time I'm thinking about that though, because it's one of those items that you buy and there's zero aftermarket branding on it. Like
Right.
when I have a car that I know everybody knows that I drive that car. It's expressing who I am through that brand. We talk about that a lot, the ownership of it. And I know people talk about it. They're always, who did this or who did that, and you're hoping that the people there. So I wonder if there's even like a secondary educational component that you can put into the buyer's hands that, hey, if somebody ever asks, there's like a little card and you can talk about where it came from and the history of the marble and history of the stone. You know what I'm saying? Like enable that opportunity for them to sell for you after the fact because there is no logo slapped on the top of it,
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. We have referral programs in place. We certainly want to incentivize people who refer us to other people. But yeah, I really like that idea because, like I said, it's like a signature on a piece of art. This stuff is incredible. How it's even made within the earth, right? If you're talking about natural stone, but it just looks so amazing. And some of these kitchens, like you say, I mean, I'd love to see yours. You get 12-seater, that just means 12 people to do the dishes, right? But yeah, I bet it's just amazing.
It really kind of is. I'm gonna see if I can find a picture and pull it up for you. Michael, ask a question while I look for this.
Yeah, we had too many kids. That was the problem. We had
We
we
did
had
not have too many kids. Who would you get rid of? No one.
no. Well, no. I would. That sounds bad, but yes, we had
Yes.
we had a lot of kids. So, and then another having spouses. So the number is growing as far as people we have to sit at a counter. But it ended up being like we have a dining table which we never use. It just happens to be that's where the center of the world is. We
Right.
cook and we dine, we hang out, and we have parties there, and that's where everybody kind of resonates, you know. So it really is the center of a lot of people's universe, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
and we put the oven in the island. So that way when Michael's cooking, he's facing us while we sit around him and watch him work.
Nice.
I'm like a short order cook from Waffle House.
Pretty much.
You don't have Waffle Houses up there in Utah?
We do, yeah, we
right.
do. We like our gluttony here. You know, we don't drink, but we sure eat.
Yeah, it's a big Southern thing down here. There's a Waffle House in every corner, it seems like.
I'm not sure that that's accurate, but there are a bunch of them. I'll give you that. There are a bunch.
And they've done great branding.
Exactly. So let me see the best angle. I think it's going to be the one from the den. All right, so let me pull this up. Just going to share my screen. So if for you all, oh, Michael, you have to turn on sharing.
Mm.
So for you all who are listening at home, you'll need to go find the YouTube of this so you can see this picture. But so this is our front door. There's the grand piano in the corner. This goes into a study. And so we've only got 8 stools around it right now. But you can see here's the top cooktop, double oven. And I mean, it's a big piece.
Yeah, that looks like a
us.
couple of super slabs. So yeah,
It's one solid piece, no seam.
Oh, gosh, wow. Okay, yeah, that's a super slab for sure.
Yeah.
But that looks incredible and very. How long ago did you do this?
3 years, 4 years.
Okay, still, like natural wood is really on trend right now.
Yeah.
It used to be everybody wanted the white kitchen.
Right.
But now we're seeing more, blonde wood, more dark earthy tones with some, veining in the cream colored slabs.
Right. Well, we liked we worked with a designer, obviously. And so we really liked that color palette. It felt very us. And we've enjoyed the heck out of it. Here's an even better picture. Because it's like all of a sudden, no matter where you are in the house, you feel like the kitchen is the center of the whole universe, which I just think makes it just homey.
Well, and for resale value too, like best. It's the best thing that you can do.
Absolutely. Well, and this is a butler's pantry. This cabinet door, you walk into a butler's pantry that has ice maker, microwave, coffee station, all the stuff.
So here you are talking about your kitchen and you're like glowing, right? So
I do love it.
How exciting is that for you, and to host people and to have them come into your space and see the care and how meticulous it is, and then how custom it is to you guys, right? So yeah, it's not a boring place to be. It's exciting, the things that we do, and some of the work we do. I would encourage you, bedrockquartz.com, our gallery, some of the stuff we do, I'm blown away at how amazing it is. So
well, and we'll put all those links in the show notes so people, not our house, but people can go to bedrockquartz.com and see all your work and see what you're doing. So let's back on track, though, because I have some other questions. So when you're planning your marketing for the year, what part of the process feels the most difficult or time consuming? And what part are you kind of excited about when you think about what y'all are going to be doing in 2026?
Well, I'll start with what we want to be doing in 2026. Maybe I'll take that back. So when I think about like the wins and losses from this last year, and how that's going to inform what I want to do moving forward, fortunately, I'm in an environment where I can do a lot of testing. My boss loves it when I say, "Hey, I want to run a test." The purse strings tend to get a little bit looser as far as that goes, because he's a big fan of data. But yeah, I mean, we have done a lot. I mentioned the surveys, or the brand study that we did, the focus groups. I think we learned a lot about our audience. We did some persona development. So really, it sounds simple, but taking everything that maybe worked and didn't work, and then trying to figure out of those 10, 15 things, how many can you pull down? It's 3 or 4 actionable items that are really going to be a priority heading into next year. So I think there was a time when I got here 3 years ago where it felt like we were doing a lot, but not any one thing really well. So just kind of going back to the basics, which for us, we're going to continue to tell our brand story. heading into next year and figure out ways that we can get that to resonate with other people.
Right.
Simple, but really necessary.
Right. No, and I think that's great. We often, and our guests on this podcast talk a lot about being under resourced, understaffed, under budgeted. And so, how big is your team?
You're looking at it.
Exactly.
Well, of course, I work with several different agencies, and
Sure.
and I have resources, but um, I've been a VP at a $350 million supplement company, and had 40 people reporting to me. And for the last 3 years, I've been a one-man band, and I used to do some consulting. And I have to say, I think it's so much fun to be a little bit of a one-man band.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I still interact with a ton of people, but I could just get things done so much faster.
Right. Right. So
So
you balance multiple agencies. How do you keep everybody on the same page so there's still consistency, everybody's still on brand, on message? What are your tools and techniques for that? Because I do think a small internal team with a lot of external resources is the most economical way to grow.
yeah, for sure. I mean, certainly if you're talking about brand consistency, any kind of style guide, or brand guide is going to be super helpful. So we always lead with that. We did bring on a couple of new agencies in recent months. And I actually sort of did like the gospel according to Bedrock Quartz a few years back, and just sort of like put it all down in one document. It was actually a PowerPoint presentation, with all the things that, as a brand story guy, that I thought was interesting and relevant, even though others may be like, well, what's the big deal about that? I'm like, well, because the fact that we're so fast is huge, because some people wait 2 to 3 months for their kitchen. It's like, oh yeah, good point, and or the fact that we can do your tear out the same day as we install, so you're not left with a kitchen
Wow.
that's like, you know for weeks you don't know where to put your plates, or that sort of thing. So
Right.
yeah,
Or you don't
some
have
of
a
those
huge
things.
hole in the ground,
Correct.
which is what everyone does.
Right.
Well,
You
we
know?
moved our kitchen from one side of the house to the other. So that's a little bit on us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, but still.
Okay.
So yeah, no, we did have a microwave on top of the washer in the laundry room and a
Nice.
little baby fridge next to it. And that's how we lived for about 6 months. With everybody had one plate, one fork, one glass, and you had to wash it in the mudroom sink. And if you didn't clean your plate, you didn't have a plate to eat on. Like, that was it.
And that's fun for about 2 minutes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. We ate out a
No.
lot.
And as we work primarily, every account that we're on, we have a marketing director that we work with. And for the clients that we love, all of our clients, but the ones that we really love, they have a killer in-house marketing director, and they're the ones that really drive everything. And that relationship is so important. You have to have somebody that can convey their thoughts, is not one of those I'll know it when I see it people, but they're actually giving good direction. They're saying, hey, this is where we're going. They're leading the team. And I think some people are sometimes intimidated because an agency will come in and they're like, okay, I don't want them to look too good because that'll make me look bad. Realizing that, if it's the right agency, their whole job is to make the marketing director look good, because as long as that happens, they got a job for a while,
Yeah.
So you have to have that good relationship of trust and understanding and communication. Otherwise it ends up being a train wreck, and it usually ends badly.
Well, one thing that we've done to facilitate everybody being on the same page is we'll actually do collaborative meetings, right? So if I have a analytics reporting meeting with with one of my digital agencies, then I'll have our creative agency sit in on that, or at least have our reps sit in on that, so they can have a better understanding of what that side of the business looks like and how we're communicating. So yeah, I've actually found that to be super helpful. And I don't, you got a decent account rep, surely they can make time for a half an hour call during the day. So that's been helpful for us.
I would say so. No, I love that idea. And I think the time when you can get everybody together, whether it's virtually or actually in person, to brainstorm together, that energy really fuels growth, because everybody's bringing their A game and working together to make it happen. You should have your agencies play nice with each other. That's the only challenge. Not every agency does.
Yeah, and again, it's like abundance mentality, right? Like we're diversified enough and specific enough that there's not a lot of stepping on toes. So I think lines of responsibility are pretty clear.
Yes. Yes. And just like in any relationship, whether it's personal at home with a spouse or kids, or professional with a coworker, supervisor, or someone who reports to you, if you don't have clear lines of who's responsible for what, then something's either going to get overlapped or gapped.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
fact,
Yeah. Fact.
fact.
So what is the biggest misconception that you think people have about Bedrock Quartz?
Biggest misconception. I think, and it's not unique to us necessarily, but one of the things that we really try to focus on, in addition to building your dream kitchen, right, is the hassle-free experience.
Yeah.
Because, and we try to demystify the process of buying a kitchen, and you can entirely relate, right? There's so much more that goes into it than you think. And that's just with the countertop, right? You got to have your cabinets ready, your appliances, like all the stuff ready to go. But yeah, if you kind of have a better sense of what you can provide the customer, and we have there's a lot of things we have going for us. We're one of the largest in the state, so we do things quickly. We focus a lot on our reviews, right? So we've got over 1,000 5-star reviews. So we talk about that a lot. We dip into those reviews for testimonials. Um, we have one point of contact. So you're not having to, talk to a bunch of different people within the company. But we have a lot of, like, several dedicated teams because we are big. We're about 170 employees. And so we can, we have these departments and project management. And so we really just sort of, like, put people at ease, because I think it's an anxiety ridden process. Because it's kind of like you're pulling open the kimono going into someone's kitchen, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's their spot. It's where all those great memories are held.
Yep.
So don't screw up my memories, don't
Right.
screw up my kitchen.
Right.
So yeah, we've done a really good job over the last year and a half of telling our story, and step by step guides and things like that help the customer really understand what they're in for.
Well, and
Right.
like you said, the anxiety part of it, we were talking to a contractor the other day, and I think that goes into so many different businesses. When you talk to a lawyer, a doctor, there's anxiety on all those levels because you don't do it every day. It's not every day you buy a multiple $1,000 piece of furniture, basically, in your house, or you build a house, or that you buy a car. These are once in a decade type things, if once in a lifetime type things, that you're expecting to last a lifetime. And so there's a lot of stress with that, and second guessing. And you want to find somebody, I think, that provides that level of comfort and experience. And hey, we're going to make it easy. You can trust us. We're going to take care of it. And I think that's the biggest part in all those situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that we learned from going back to our focus groups, so we sort of had our positioning statement, and we figured, like, look, these are the things that people are most interested in. So that was one of the first things I did when I got here. I said, okay, why Bedrock? We didn't have a why Bedrock document. So I created 7, which is too many. But at the time, I was just, like, desperate to find some differentiation, because I had come from 2 companies that were very differentiated in the market. So I'm like, okay, countertops, everybody does countertops. How different can it be, right? So I identified these 7 different reasons for Bedrock Quartz, and that kind of evolved over the course of a couple of years. But really, just like having that document and getting everybody on the same page as to what those points of differentiation were, I thought was really super helpful. It helped us kind of get in focus and get in alignment.
It's essential. I mean, we that's the center of our universe, and we call it the brand promise here. And it's that one nucleus, that everything comes from. I mean, from your marketing to your business decisions to how you treat customers. I mean, internal operations, all that comes from that. If you don't have that, then you're just guessing at that point, and that never works out well.
Yeah. And people really pointed to durability. That was one finding that we were surprised by. We're like, okay, so it's not our speed, it's not our 40 years of business. The number one word that they kept coming back to was, well, durability and quality. And I like quality better because quality obviously can refer to the stone. I mean, some of this stuff, as you well know, is $150 a square foot, right? Like it's no joke. So you want to make sure that that's going to last, but also the quality of our customer service experience, the quality of your interactions with Bedrock and the end result. So, so yeah, we leaned into those words, and it's really informed. I mentioned the commercial. So again, if you go to YouTube, Bedrock Quartz. We just spent a bunch of money on this commercial. It's really amazing, and it told the whole story about this single countertop in a home that lasted sort of from cradle to not quite the grave, but like from the time she was a baby to the time she brings her own family over, and we had these little vignette stories all around the same countertop to try to show like, hey, not only is this where you have the cool memories and the great moments, but it's gonna last for 10, 15 years, 20 years if you are one of those people that changes out their countertops every 7 years. But
I love that. Do you at the same time, do you spend time, I'm sure you do, on internal brand awareness too, making sure that everybody on the team is telling the same story and online with the messaging, and all those touch points are vertically lined up where you want them to be?
yeah, certainly. I used to talk about the 360-degree brand experience, everything from the person that's talking on the phone representing the company to the high level decisions to the product offering. Um, but yeah, I one of the things I do is I go and meet with our sales team, we- not just on our monthly sort of like collaborative group meeting. Unfortunately, we have a space here where we can fit everybody, but I actually sit in a showroom 2 days a week. Mm. And I do that, A, between us girls because it's close to home. But B, I do it because I can see the customer come in, I can hear the interactions, I can go ask questions, right? Because they come in and then they are taken to the showroom and they look at all the stone and they're browsing stone, and the marketing guy kind of creeps up and says, "Hey, what brought you in today? Why did you decide on picking Bedrock Quartz?" And so it's a cool experience for me to be at that sort of rubber meets the road level. And then I also meet with our production team, uh, and yeah, it's I don't know, it's great. Being able to work out of a showroom is a cool experience. I think I'd feel probably a little separated if I didn't do that.
I love that. And it's interesting because so many marketing directors that we interview on the podcast talk about that. Getting the opportunity to coordinate with sales, getting the opportunity to talk to customers, getting the opportunity to be in the field, and how vital that is. And then I talk to other marketing directors who have no interest and they're so disconnected that they don't even know that their message isn't resonating. So good on you for doing the right things the right way.
Yeah, and frankly, I'll send out like maybe not weekly, but every couple of weeks, I'll send out an email like, "Hey, here's what we're doing right now. We have 3 billboards that just went up at Point of the Mountain. It's a high traffic area. You should look for our commercial when you're streaming. Like just letting them know, even if it's like, oh, it's good to know. I don't really know what to do with it, but there's a lot of goodwill in. Plus, it makes me feel validated. Like, hey, we're not just I'm not just sitting on my hands here. We're doing stuff. Stuff is getting done, right? So
Now, as a media buyer, I'm fascinated because we hear a lot of people say they've gotten away from traditional altogether. No TV, no radio, no print, no billboard, and you're out here adding new stuff. So, how do you balance the traditional with some of the newfangled social digital tools? Do you keep an easy balance? Do you measure them by the same ROI standards? What's your approach to your media buy?
yeah, I mean, we are. It's actually surprised me in the last 6 months. We have done more traditional advertising than at any other time. So, and we were going to turn off radio because we were just like, I just don't know if it's working. And so we ended up doubling down on radio and doing live reads and remotes and things like that. And um, it helped that the company we were working with did a whole demographic presentation, was able to show that like the primary people who are listening to that station at certain times are 100% our customers. So that helped inform some of those decisions. But yeah, we're doing a lot of radio. We are actually doing a lot on billboards. And if you've ever been to Utah and you drive up and down between Salt Lake North and Salt Lake South, it's just billboard after billboard.
Yep.
But we made a conscious decision that we were going to focus on awareness, as well as conversion, but certainly probably closer to a 50-50 split. We've done some direct mail. We've done some events around our showrooms, certainly opening showrooms. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good mix. And I think with awareness, it's always tricky, right? I mean, you're dealing in impressions. You can't always quantify them. So, I think sometimes you just have to feel like, well, this is an awareness campaign, and there are elements of this that we can measure, but you just don't really know. Although we kind of know, because every time somebody walks into our showroom, not the first thing, not the second thing, but the third thing they're asked is, how'd you hear about us? And we track that. And so every day I get, 9 different showrooms sending me, I saw a Google ad, I saw this, and it blew my mind that we weren't necessarily doing that 3 years ago, but it's
Right.
certainly been extremely helpful. Not just, oh yeah, I saw a Google ad, and then here was my interaction. So the salesperson was like, oh yeah, they're looking for this, or they came
Right.
back for this, or returning customer, et cetera. So yeah, I think we have a pretty healthy mix of traditional and more modern marketing.
I love that. So I have to ask, and Michael's going to roll his eyes, but this is like my closing question for you. With a name like Bedrock Quartz, how often do you get the team to dress up as characters from the Flintstones, maybe around Halloween? I mean, does it happen regularly? Do y'all lean into it?
So I think about that a lot.
As do
I sort
I.
of envision just jumping out my window and sliding down that
Yes.
that dinosaur into the car. But
Yes.
no, it's funny. We're a little bit of a conservative company. I'll just put that out there.
Sure.
So some of my ideas have gone. Some of my hashtag suggestions, get stoned at Bedrock Quartz. Don't take us for granted.
Thank you. That's a good one.
Things like that, I've not necessarily found purchase,
Right.
but I'm gonna keep trying.
Good. Well, the Flintstones, other than the questionable scientific evolutionary principles of the show, they at least are rock solid in some, pun intended, in some family values. So you should be fine.
Yeah, no, I think we're pretty good.
Yeah.
We have a solid foundation. See what I did there?
Jaci is not always allowed in creative meetings for that very reason. She is a pun master.
Oh yeah, I can derail a meeting in 30 seconds.
You and me both, Jason. You and me both.
Easily.
You and me both. All right. This was awesome. You were great. We
you.
are going to make sure that the people know in the show notes how to find you. Anything specific, parting last words that you want to let them know?
Yeah, I would just say, with AI, one of the agencies we're working with is extremely positive about all things AI. I know some agencies are like, oh crap, I don't know what to do. People aren't going to be buying ads the way they used to. But we're finding that a lot of the best practices, SEO things that we were doing, backlinking, making sure we had lots of great content, are really beginning to pay dividends. And so, I think embrace what's happening. It's a tremendous opportunity if you, again, have a positive outlook on it and see it as an opportunity instead of this overwhelming thing. I mean, that's been really cool as we, realize that we can affect how we show up and how we surface within some of these language models that are out there. So,
So we
I'd
agree.
say, yeah, embrace change, be happy, be kind, give to the poor and the sick and the needy,
All the good things.
all the good things.
Thank you, Jason. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
What am I to do when the day is